um, the 10 topics of the Bhagavatam. I'll try to the best of my ability to see if I can do justice to this topic. It's very vast. But first of all, let's start with Kirtan. Nukaraya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Sachitnadi Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivakari Gaurabhata Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivakari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Radha Radhanata Radha Radhanata Radhe, Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Privracharya Sutasaran Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Privracharya Sutasaran Shila Bhaktisanta Saraswati Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai. Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So dear devotees, welcome to today's session. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today's topic is very vast, and it deals with the 10 subjects of the Bhagavatam. So it may be a little over our heads, but we need to listen to these topics, and in order to gain special entrance into the Bhagavatam. We need to know what the Bhagavatam deals with in order to enter the Bhagavatam, and in this way understand the Bhagavatam. So I'll be going from one topic to the other, and it may take a while. So let's begin, and let's not waste time because time is against us. So I'll try to present these topics in 1 hour. We'll see how it goes. So Om Jnana Timirandhasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Kadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namasate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhaischa Kripa Sindhubhevicha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So dear devotees, the first part of the Bhagavatam describes the sarga, or the primary creation of this material universe, and that's done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So we see that the living entities were with Krishna at one stage, and because we wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna, Krishna created this material world in order for us to enjoy, and to some extent become frustrated so that we can go back to him, back home, back to Godhead. So he creates this material world. Now in the Canto 3 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the fundamental principles of material nature is described. And here we see that Lord Mahavishnu is lying on the causal ocean, and out of his skin holes, from his pores basically, so many material universes are created. And it is stated in the third canto that just by his glance, he impregnates the Mahatattva, the total material energy. And from that comes the 5 gross elements, the 3 subtle elements, the five objects of sense perception, and the knowledge acquiring senses. So the 5 gross elements we know is the earth, water, fire, air, ether. The 3 subtle elements is mind, intelligence, and false ego. And the 5 objects of sense perception is smell, sight, taste, sound, and touch. And the 5 knowledge acquiring senses is the ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and skin. So in this way, the Lord creates all of these things. And then by the false ego, the first ingredient basically of that comes into play is the false ego, ahankara, that comes into play in the material creation. And when false ego is combined with the mode of goodness, mind is created. When the false ego is compared to the mode of combined with the mode of passion, then intelligence is created. And when the false ego is combined with the mode of ignorance, then sound is created. And we see that from sound, sky is produced and the sense of hearing. So like this is very elaborately explained in the third canto. We should try to go through these things if you want to learn more about the creation. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just briefing you on all these subjects. But for more detailed information, you can refer to the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the third canto. In chapter 26 describes it in detail, basically. So good luck with that. It's, actually Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami will be presenting Srimad Bhagavatam as a course. And I basically invite all of you to attend those courses, even if you do not, do the examination, but please listen in, right? And this will be in April, somewhere around in April this year, 2022. So good luck with that and hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam and how it's presented in a very systematic way. So we go on to the second topic, which is called Visarga. Visarga is the secondary creation, and this is done by Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is there. How he's actually taken birth is from the navel of Mahavishnu comes a lotus stem, and on top of the lotus stem is a lotus flower. On top of the lotus flower is Lord Brahma. He takes his birth there. And then he looks all around him and he sees everything is completely dark. So what to do? Everything is completely dark, and he tries to find out as to who his father is, who his mother is, where he came from. And so he tries to go down the lotus stem. And he goes halfway and he fails, he can't see anything. So he goes back on top of the lotus stem, on the lotus flower, and he meditates. He hears a sound vibration, tapa, 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 which means austerities, perform austerities. So he goes into meditation. And when he goes into meditation, the Lord from within the heart instructs him to create, right? So these primary elements are there. So all Brahma has to do is manipulate these material ingredients in order to create this material universe. So this is what he does. And then also, it's this world is Durga, or the material world. And we find that Durga Devi, one of her potencies, another name is called Maya, and this is illusion. So she puts us into illusion, right? Because we want to forget Krishna, so she puts us into illusion. So in this way, she has the throwing potency and the covering potency. She throws us into this material world, and she covers us by this Maya potency. So in the Srimad, in the Brahma Samhita, actually, it is stated, Shristi Sisti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chayeva Yasha Bhuvana Nivivyarti Durga Ichana Rupa Yasha Apiyasha Chate Satesta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And the translation is, the external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. So you can go to this verse and you can read it up in the Brahma Samhita, right? So basically, I'll just explain a little that she has this, so she puts us into this bodily concept of life, and we think in terms of I, me, and mine, because we totally forget Krishna, so we identify with this body, that, I am this body. And then being this body, we also derived various knowledge from this material world pertaining to matter, to the body, right? You look all around us and we find these this type of knowledge pertaining to the material body. And when you go to the universities and to derive better knowledge, you will get better entangled in this material world. In that you'll identify more with this body, because you are basically, there's no division. Srila Prabhupada says in one of the lectures that there's no division in the universities that teaches us about spiritual knowledge or the knowledge of the soul, who you are, and what your relationship with the Supreme Lord is. So in this way, we become entangled in this material world. So in order to get out of this material world, one must hear about Krishna, right? Especially the second and third cantos, the process of creation, how to get out of this material world. We see that when Krishna left this planet, he gave instructions to so Vidura, in order to remember Krishna, he asked Maitreya Muni about creation, and this is elaborately explained in the third canto. So the third topic we go on to is Sthanam, or basically this material world and its divisions, and how the living entity is attracted to the different types of pleasures in this material world. But when the jiva wants to go back to the spiritual world, then the Lord protects. So we'll see that this is called Sati Vaikuntha Vijaya. This is in the third, fourth, and fifth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the third canto, the Daksha Yagya is very elaborately explained. That how Daksha, he wants to He wanted to do Daksha Yagya. And in this way, he invited everyone from all the planetary systems to come and attend his yagya. But he did not invite Lord Shiva and his daughter Parvati. And when Parvati heard about this, she saw all the demigods dressed up and they're going, and she inquired, where are you going to? And they told her that they're going to her father's house because he's having a yagya. And then she's like wondering, like, why am I not invited? So she asked Lord Shiva for permission to go there, but he refused because Lord Shiva is also Trikalagya, so he basically knows the past, present, and future, and he knew what was going to happen if she does attend this yagya. But she did not adhere, and she so this is Sati we're talking about. So she did not adhere, and she put on her fine dress, her sari and her jewelry, and she went. So Lord Shiva sent some of his companions with Sati to attend this function. But we see that when she got there, she was basically insulted in that her father did not pay attention to her and her family members as well. So then she, takes a vow to set herself alight, and there's so much of confusion there and blasphemy that goes on in this yagya, that at the end Sati sets herself alight. So we'll see that this is discussed in the third canto. Fourth canto, we hear of Dhruva Maharaj and how he wanted a kingdom greater than his father, but he he inquired from his mother what should he do, and his mother instructed him, well, you should go to the forest and search out for God, right? And there he went into meditation, and Krishna appeared before him, and then he asked, my dear Dhruva, you're only 5 years old, what do you want? And then he says he wants a kingdom greater than his father's. And but when he saw the Lord, he says, now that I've seen you, my Lord, I was looking for broken pieces of glass compared to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He compared his desire to be like broken pieces of glass. So we see here also that how Krishna gives his protection to Dhruva in this way. So also the story of Bharat Maharaj is there, and Prashini Barishat and Puranjana, the allegory story of describing Parini Barishat's position, and in this way the Lord helps him to regain his consciousness and become Krishna conscious, basically. Then we see the story of Prithu Maharaj, he did the 99 horse sacrifices, and he was going to do the 100th horse sacrifice, and guess what? Indra stole the horse. So what to do? So he so the Lord appeared and told him, my dear Prithu, you better not do this the sacrifice, because many people are against you and envious of you. So better you don't do this last sacrifice, because Indra, see, when the Maharaj is such a perfect person that if he had to do the 100th horse sacrifice, he would actually be in a position to rule the whole universe or the heavenly kingdom and take Indra's position. So Indra, seeing this, that's why he stole the horse, and so Prithu Maharaj could not perform that sacrifice. So in order to please the Lord, Prithu Maharaj, he basically adhered to the Lord's request, and he sacrificed his opinion. And we see that an investment in Krishna brings solid returns, right? So in this way, he pleased Krishna, and the Lord was very satisfied with his devotional service, basically, and because he listened to the Supreme Lord. So then we see the marriage, or basically Priyavrata, who did not want to marry, but because he was requested to actually marry and rule the universe, so this is what he did. He, although it was against his will, but because his father requested him, Brahma requested him to marry and to rule the universe, this is what he did. He took to the Grihastha ashram, and he ruled the universe like this also. So basically, in order to submit to the Lord's request, basically one becomes very glorious if one submits to the Lord's request. So we see in Canto 5 a detailed description of the universe where the living entity tries to enjoy the facilities offered in this material universe. So in Canto 5, a very nice description of the hellish planets are given. So the hellish planets are, situated below us, Atala Loka, and there's various Atala Vitalas, there's many hellish planets described that according to whatever sin you perform, you go to a specific hellish planet in order to suffer the consequences there. And the dosage of the punishment is given according to the various sins one is given, and the detailed description of those hellish planets is also given in the Canto 5. So this is just to whet your appetite a little in order to understand all these things. You please read Canto 5 and these different descriptions of the hellish planets. I was actually very intrigued, by reading this chapter, this Canto 5. I was very intrigued. And, like in my childhood, basically, I listened to the Garud Puran, and the Garud Puran also gives a description of the hellish planets. And at that time, my intelligence wasn't so good. But when I read Canto 5, then we got a detailed description. Srila Prabhupada puts it very nicely in the Canto 5. Yeah, he translates the Canto 5 for us, right? So the best Sankirtan Yagya basically is performed on this earth planet, and the demigods are lining up to actually take their birth on this earth planet, because just within a short period of time, basically 90 years, one can actually perform devotional service and go back home, back to Godhead, right? In other ages, they lived for 100,000 years, and they had to perform austerities like, for maybe 60,000 years in order to go back home, right? And then in the Treta Yuga, they lived for 1,000 years, and so they had to perform austerities for that amount of time in order to attain perfection. But we see in the Kali Yuga, it's near 100 years and even shorter now. As Kali Yuga progresses, the lifespan is also decreasing. So it's actually a lesser period that we can go back to Godhead. So we should take to this Sankirtan Yagya very, very seriously in order to make it home back to Godhead. Then the fourth subject matter we discuss is Poshanam, the Lord's mercy. So it is described that even if the devotee commits, sins, the Lord will give him some type of protection. Like in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, even if one commits the most abominable sin, action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he's considered to be saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. So the Lord always protects his devotees. And we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 6th canto, the story of Ajamil and how the Lord protected him, although he performed so many sinful activities, right? So, but because of the impressions that was created in his mind, he, of a prostitute embracing somebody. So this impression was in his mind and he acted on that. So he eventually married the prostitute and, he committed all types of abominable sins. But because of his previous life, basically, of being a Brahmana, he named his son Narayan. And when he was on his deathbed, he called out for Narayan. And who do you think came to his rescue? The Vishnu Dutas, right? They came to his rescue at the time of death, and they basically saved him from going to hell. So in the 6th canto, the 3rd chapter, text 22, there's a verse that goes like this. Etavan eva lokesmin pumsham dharma paras smritam bhakti yoga bhavati tannama grahana divihi. Yamaraj says the only dharma is bhakti. It starts with the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So in order to basically practice bhakti yoga, one has to chant the holy names of Krishna, especially in this day and age. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva, gatir anyatha. That one should chant the holy names of the Lord, chant the holy names of the Lord, chant the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way, no other way, no other way. So this is being emphasized that in this Kali Yuga, one has to chant the holy names of the Lord in order to attain perfection. And then we see that also how Indra offends his spiritual master, and then in the same canto, right? He offends his spiritual master and he is defeated by the demons. And the reason is because the demons did not offend their spiritual master. And then Brihaspati basically cursed them that they will be defeated by the demons. And then they got rid of Brihaspati and they got a second guru, Vishwarup. And their Vishwarup was basically siding with the demons. He was performing a yagya and he was giving them the fruits as well. And in this way, Indra became very upset and he killed his, his spiritual master, Vishwarup, right, cut off his head. So we find that, he committed another offense, which is even greater than the first offense. So how to actually defeat the demons, then he was thinking about this. And then he approached the Dadichi Rishi, and he requested his bones to make a thunderbolt that will actually kill Vritrasur, right? So the Dadichi Rishi, being so selfless, offered his bones. So in order to offer your bones, you have to die, right? So in this way, he offered the bones to Indra, and Indra created this thunderbolt that actually killed Vritrasur. And we see that Vritrasur is also a very striking personality in that he's a demon, but he is also, we find in the Srimad Bhagavatam how he gives spiritual knowledge to Indra because he's a selfless person, right? Selfless devotee. He was a selfless devotee in that, and then he was cursed to become a demon in that he was Maharaj Chitraketu in his previous life. And we see that how when Lord Shiva was instructing some sages, he had Mother Parvati on his lap, And when Chitraketu was going past, flying overhead, he saw Lord Shiva sitting in like this with Mother Parvati on his lap. Now we should understand that Lord Shiva is very self-controlled. Although he has Mother Parvati on his lap, he is very self-controlled. So when Mother Parvati saw this, then she cursed Chitraketu to become a demon, and that's when he took on this form as Vitrasur. But after that form, basically, he got released from his curse like that. So, so this is portion of how the Lord protects his devotees, right? And then we go on to the fifth one, which is Uttaya, the creative impetus, where auspicious and inauspicious activities are performed, and we get the karmic reactions of those fruitive activities. So in order to maintain himself, the living entity is involved in fruitive work. And fruitive work, we know, binds us to this material world, right? And we get karmic reactions, and we have to suffer or enjoy those karmic reactions. And the living entity forgets about the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he does not question any further. Sorry, there's heavy rainfall, and you hope the sound is still okay. So we forget our true impetus, which is to go back home, back to God, and we remain here in this perpetually in this material world. So the Lord assists us by his internal potency. He sends a devotee our way, or we get one of his books. In this way, we actually take up to the process, and we are able to go back home, back to Godhead. This rain is thunderous. Anyway, the sixth topic that we're going to discuss very briefly is the Manvatara, so the Manus, basically. So there's 14 Manus in the day of Brahma. I'll just list them. Swayambhava Manu, Virochira, Uttama, Tamasha, Revata, Chakshusha Manu, Vivashvata Manu. This is the Manu that we are in now, Vivashvata Manu. Savarani, Daksha Varini, Brahma Sarvani, Rudra Sarvani, Deva Sarvani, and Indra Sarvani. So these are the 14 Manus, and the Manus are the who set the laws for the mankind. How we should live our lives in this material world. We find in the 8th canto, the Lord appears in the reign of the Manus, the 4th Manu basically, and the Lord appears as Harini, and he saved Gajendra from the claws, from the jaws of the crocodile, right? And we find that the Lord appears in the reign of the 6th Manu, the Chakshusha Manu. The Lord appears as Ajita, and he helps in the churning of the ocean of milk. And we see that as Kurma, he acted as a pivot for the Mandara mountain in order for the demigods and demons to churn the ocean of milk. So he also appeared as Mohini Murti, in that he cheated the demons and he gave the nectar to the demigods, like this. So there's many things that appeared from that ocean. This is in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So you can read that to find out more. So the 7th topic that we are going to discuss is Ishanutata. And basically the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam discusses Ram Leela, but we see throughout the Bhagavatam, the different descriptions of the Lord's pastimes are there. Okay, so the different incarnations of the Lord are also discussed, like the Das avatars, Kurma, Vamana, Dev, Nishingadev, Parusharam, Buddha, Ram, like this. So the different incarnations of the Lord are discussed throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we go on to the 8th topic, and that of destruction of this universe. So we find that this is being discussed in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So here, how the destruction happened, I will just give you a brief understanding. Is that when the Skalpa is finished, right, at the end of Kali Yuga, then those devotees who are eligible to go back home, back to Godhead, by practicing devotional service very nicely, will attain the spiritual world. But those devotees who haven't finished up, who haven't taken to the process of God consciousness, they will be sort of sucked into the body of Lord Mahavishnu, and they will remain there for a long time until for the whole night of Brahma, until the next day come and Brahma, creates again. So these living entities come out again and they take their strategic positions in order to, met out their karmic reactions, basically. So the living entities, take birth again, and the whole cycle goes on again from Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So we are living in the Kali Yuga at the moment, where things are very degraded. So at the end of the Kali Yuga, Kalki Avatar will come and he will destroy everything, and the living entities will actually go back into, this is called Pralaya, right? The dissolution. It will go back into the body of Lord Vishnu. So then we go on to the 9th topic, which is Mukti, and the 11th canto also elaborately explains about Mukti, attaining salvation. So when this jivas, the souls, are reinstated in bhakti, the process of bhakti yoga, right, then the false ego is basically slashed, and the true ego arises in that we understand who we are in relation to the supreme absolute truth, and we understand the different features of the Supreme Lord, and has the different avatars and his creative potency, his maintaining potency, his destructive potencies. So we basically understand all these concepts of the Supreme Lord, and then we basically able to go back home, back to Godhead. Also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna says, Janma karma chami divyam, evam yoveti tattvataha. That basically, if we know Krishna and his pastimes, then by the end of this lifetime, if we understand these pastimes, then we can go back home, back to Godhead. So Krishna gives us his guarantee, that if we understand his activities and pastimes, when he appears in this material world, then we are able to go back home, back to Godhead, right? And this is not some false statement that Krishna is making. It's absolutely true, and that therefore devotees like ourselves, we need to understand these topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam, understand Srimad Bhagavatam in order to go back home, back to Godhead, right? But if we don't, then we will follow the general populace, and after this dissolution of this material universe, then we'll enter into the body of Vishnu. So we also see that in the 11th canto, chapter 7, the Lord speaks to Uddhava, and the Uddhava Gita is spoken, and there basically detachment, the illusory potency. So all these topics are being discussed, sense control, and also Krishna gives transcendental knowledge to Uddhava. right? So this falls under mukti, how to attain liberation. So, or how to attain perfection of this human life and go back to Godhead. So we have a few minutes left, and we're on to this 10th topic, which deals with Ashraya or shelter, how we can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this day and age, it's very simple. It's a very simple process that's been given to us by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in that we just chant the holy names of Krishna with care and attention. And in this way, we can attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So this is how simple the process is. So we also see in the shelter, devotees taking shelter of the Lord. This is very elaborately explained in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where the different devotees are taking shelter of Krishna, right? We see that in Krishna's pastimes, when the various demons come to attack Vrindavan, and the devotees, who do they run to, right? Who do they take shelter under? It's only Krishna, right? And these devotees have so much of love for Krishna that they don't even know Krishna is God. They just love him unconditionally. You know, that even we see that Mahalakshmi, or Lakshmi Devi, she is also want to gain the shelter of Krishna. But what is Krishna doing in Vrindavan? He is serving the cows of Vrindavan. So like this, you know, there are different devotees in the 5 different rasas that are taking shelter of Krishna, or who love Krishna unconditionally. And we see that in Damodar Leela, right? Mother Yashoda does not know that Krishna is God, and she is basically binding him. So he becomes submissive to his devotees, right? He's subordinate to his devotees of Vrindavan, because their love is unconditional. So Anya Vilasita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavatam Anukulyena Krishnanam Shilanam Bhakti Uttamam. So that we should actually serve Krishna in the way Krishna wants to be served. We should please Krishna and not try to please our own material desires. So, and our soul should be unconditional and unmotivated in order to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Having said this, we'll basically go on to see how these residents of Vrindavan display unconditional love for Krishna, right? You see Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they're the parents of Krishna, right? And they do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And Krishna instructs his father, right? My dear father, you don't have to do this Indra Puja. Why are you doing Indra Puja? Rain is falling anyway, it falls in the ocean. The ocean doesn't need water, but it falls in the ocean. So rain will fall. So don't, you know, he's actually speaking like in personal philosophy here, right? And he's preaching to his father, and his father adheres to what Krishna is saying. Krishna is only 7 years old, but we see that his father is adhering to whatever he's saying, and he basically he doesn't do the Indra Puja. He forgoes Indra Puja, and in this way, you know, Indra gets very upset and he sends torrents of rain, right? And we know the story. We know the pastime of what happens there. And the cowherd boys, you know, they don't know Krishna is God, right? And they basically ride on his back, you know, when Krishna loses in a game, say Guli Danda, right? So they basically, Krishna has to, you know, pay for this, and the boys ride on his back. Whoever loses, you know, has to carry the other person on his back and run around. So like a donkey derby, right? So in this way, we find that Krishna carries the boys on his back. So this is unconditional love, right? And then we see the gopis. The gopis are considered paramour lovers of Krishna. It's basically the highest love. And we see in the Shastastikam, the gopis as basically Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shastastikam, where he says, Aslisya vapadaratam hinastumam adharshanam hamama karotum va yata tata va vidatalam mat prana nasu evanapara. That I know no one as Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace. He's completely to do anything and everything, for he is my unconditional Lord. For he is my Lord unconditionally. So we see like this, the gopis' love for the Lord is the highest, basically. So this world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, right? And here, this type of relationship, paramour relationship, is considered very degraded. And but because it's a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, and in the spiritual world, it's considered the highest love. So we should all aspire to go to the spiritual world. And there's a nice verse in the Brahma Samhita. Shriyakanta Kanta Parama Purushaha Kalpataravo Bhumi Chinta Manigana Tayam Amritam Kataganam Narcham Gamanamapi Vamsi Priyasakhi Taranandam Chiranandam Jyoti Paramapitat Chiranandam Jyoti Paramavita Ashwadhyam Apischa. So let's read the translation of this verse. Right? I worship the transcendental seat known as Swetadeep, where is loving consorts, the Lakshmis, in their unalloyed spiritual essence, practice the amorous service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as their only lover. Where every tree is a desire tree, where the soil is made of papa's dreams, the flute is a favorite attendant, the effulgence is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty. Where numberless of milk cows, always in the transcendental oceans of milk, that's the Surabhi cows, they're always supplying milk, they don't run short of any milk. Where there is the eternal existence of the transcendental time, who is ever present and without past or future, and hence is not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Goloka, only to a very few self-realized souls in this world. So, dear devotees, we'll end with this, and we'll have a short kirtan. But before we do that, if any of you have any realizations on this topic, you're most welcome to with us. And also, if you basically have any questions, you're most welcome to ask. I shall try to explain to the best of my knowledge. If I don't know, then I will find out and get back to you. So anyone would like to say anything?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna?
Thank you for the wonderful class. Mataji, there is a question in the chat box from Ravindra Prabhu.
Okay.
If you could just have a look at it.
All right. 1 second. Indra knew that Kana, Krishna, child Krishna, was an incarnation of the Lord himself. No, actually, he was bewildered at that point. He did not know that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was bewildered because he said, who is this talkative child? You know, he's very restless and he's very talkative. And, you know, in this way, why is he, stopping my sacrifice? So he was bewildered at that point. But after the devastation, he got to know who Krishna really is. And in this way, when he finally came to his senses, then he bowed down to Krishna and he offered many, many prayers. And these prayers are there in the Bhagavatam as well. Also in the Krishna book, you will find these prayers of Indra, where he's offering these prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who was appearing just like a little child, right? So God is God in any case, you know, whether he's a baby that has a baby, he also vanquished Putana. They're just 3 months old or 3 days old. You know, he sucked out her life air. So he's God in any case, right? Supreme Personality of Godhead. So at that point, Prabhu, Ravindra Prabhu, that he did not know, he was bewildered, he was totally bewildered. And he did not know that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he was like confused and he says, who is this talkative boy? You know, he's just rattling away, you know, whatever words he knows. And he actually had the audacity of stopping my sacrifice, right? So at that point, he didn't know. But after the devastation, after Indra sent the clouds of devastation, then he actually could understand Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's where he offered his prayers. So thank you for the question. Anything else?
Thank you, Madam.
Very well. Sankarshan Prabhu, would you like to throw some light on this topic? If not, we can do some kirtan now.
Mataji, we did have a comment from Bhaktan Koruta Paul. Mataji said it's in the chat box. She said, thank you so much for the blissful nectarian bhajan and wonderful class. I'm very thankful and grateful to you. My Dhanavad pranams. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Bhaktan Koruta Paul.
As well, Ajita. Thank you for your wonderful comment. I don't deserve it, but thank you. This is actually an inspiration for me to do other classes in detail. So thank you very much. Now let's do some kirtan and we'll end here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Radhanath, Radha Radhanath Radhe, Jai Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jai Giri Govardhan, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.